Hey guys, what's up? It's Roll here from CrossFit Down Under, and today I want to talk about the overhead squat. The overhead squat's a pretty tricky movement because it's going to ask you to have very good mobility and very good flexibility at the same time. A lot of people find this movement very hard because they don't have the mobility or the flexibility that they need in their shoulders and their hips, knees, and ankles to perform the movement correctly, or they've just been taught the movement incorrectly, or just not enough in the first place. So I'm just going to demonstrate what it is, couple of points that you want to think about when you're performing it, and some of the things that you're going to have to do to try and improve your range of motion in your joints so that you can find this movement a little bit easier. So if we just pull back from the camera. Cool, so an overhead squat is basically me holding onto this bar above my head. I'm going to keep active shoulders, and what that means is that my shoulders are going to be pressing up into this bar. My elbows are going to be locked out. This bar is going to stay above my shoulders. I'm going to throw my hips back so I can get into a nice, good, deep squat position. All the way to the bottom. The weight's on my heels. My back is nice and straight. My chest is up, and I come all the way up. Cool. Now, the reason why people find the overhead squat difficult is for a number of reasons. One of the reasons could be that you just don't have the right amount of shoulder mobility in your shoulder. So let's say if you've had a shoulder reconstruction in the past, or you just are very tight in your between the front part of your shoulder into your chest and your pec minor, your pec major, all this sort of area here, getting to this position over here where your hands are behind your head is obviously always going to be very hard. Another reason why you might find the overhead squat hard is because your joints are very stable and aren't very strong. So a lot of people find this position here, where your wrist is at an angle, very difficult to hold. And the reason why people tend to go into such a wide position in the overhead squat in the first place is because they're lacking range of motion. So instead of trying to make your wrist stronger, try and work on the range of motion of your shoulder so that you can have that bar in a position where your wrists aren't so bent. Can everyone see that? There's a difference between me holding this bar in this position and the difference between me holding this bar in this position where there's a lot of torque occurring on my wrist joint. The other thing I want to talk about is what action the lower part of your body is taking when you're going into the overhead squat. A lot of people, when they squat with the weight above their head, tend to forget all the squatting mechanics that they've been taught, and they drive their knees forward. Now, anybody who squats with their knees forward is going to put a lot of pressure on that knee joint, because your knee joint doesn't want the weight of the world going forward onto it. When you're squatting at all times, you want to think about sending your hips back. You're going to send your hips back and come back up. Send your hips back and come back up. The other thing you want to think about is keeping the weight on your heels. If you send your hips back, but you're going onto your toes, you're going to fall forward. So as you send your hips back, you keep that weight on your heels, and you keep fighting to push it, send your hip back, and keep that weight on your heels. Another one of the reasons why people find the overhead squat hard is because they don't have the ankle flexibility or the knee stability to keep the knees where they should be. And what that means is, if we come and take a look at this, if you're somebody who squats and your ankles keep turning out to the outsides as you're squatting down, cool, you're going to find it hard to hold that position. Or if you're somebody who, as they squat down, have their knees coming in, tracking in, and you're not able to stabilize these knees for you, you're also going to find this position very hard. And here are going to be some of the solutions to all the problems that I just basically assessed with you. If you find that your shoulder is the problem, so if you find that holding a barbell or anything behind your head here is difficult, cool, you're going to have to work on some stretching and mobility of your shoulder area, okay? So not necessarily your shoulder itself, but usually stretching all the musculature between here and there, giving you the ability to pull your arms further back. Another thing that we want to have to assess is your wrist position. So like I said, if your wrist is bent all the way out, it's going to be hard for you to hold that position there. So working your shoulders hopefully allows you to keep that bar a little bit tighter so that your wrists aren't so bent to the outside. Cool. The third thing that we need to talk about is proper squatting mechanics. So making sure that every time that you squat, you send your hips back and you don't have your knees go forward. Because if your knees go forward, everything's going to fall forward. The other thing that we're going to want to assess is your ankle flexibility. So if you're not able to keep the weight on your heels when you're squatting down, cool, and sit down in this position here where your weight is on your heels and now going forward, you're going to always find that overhead squat position very challenging. So make sure that you can spend a lot of time sitting on your heels before you spend too much time trying to do it above your head. So you can't stay on your heels with no weight, or you're going to find it very difficult to stay on your heels with some weight above your head. And the last thing we're going to try and talk about is your knee position in relation to that overhead squat. So if when you're squatting generally, you find it very hard to push your knees out, cool, and open up a hole in your hip for your hip to fall into, and your knees collapse inside, cool, you may have a dysfunction between your abductors and your adductors, okay? Which can be corrected with corrective exercises, stretching, spending more time doing good squats. So good squats being where you're constantly and actively pushing those knees to the outside as you're squatting down and pushing them out to the outside as you're coming up. I hope this helps, guys. Take care. Come visit us here at CrossFit Down Under if you'd like to. We have a 30-day trial. Hit us up on Facebook or on our email at info@crossfitdownunder.com if you'd like to come check it out. Peace out, guys. Take care. See you later.